everybody. Anna Krueger here with the ISA MAPS coaching program. And I'm coming to you from Greenville, South Carolina today. And we have the lovely Katie with us. So Katie, tell everybody who you are and where you are.
Hi all, I'm Katie Collins here in Austin, Texas, where we have raging allergies right now. So pardon my look. My eyes are red from sneezing, nothing else. But I'm here with the Heil Real Estate Group out of Austin, Texas, and I'm excited about today's webinar, and we're going to be talking about CRMs.
Woohoo! And we actually get questions about this a ton. So Katie and I are both coaches with MAPS and then specifically the ISA coaching program. And so we actually got a lot of questions about this. What CRM's best for me? What features should I look for? How do I follow up with leads in there? All that good stuff. So we're going to dive into that today. And if you've been with us before, you know we like to customize this because it's for you guys, not us. We're really here to be a resource for you. So type into the chat box any specific questions you have, anything that you want to make sure you get before we're out of time today. We'll probably go for 30 to 45 minutes, just depending on the questions that come in. So go ahead and type them in. And then Katie, I'll just start with you. So a lot of people know what a CRM is. Sometimes they're like, what does that stand for? So just tell us in general terms, what is a CRM?
Okay, great. So a CRM is a client relationship manager. Sometimes it's also referred to as a customer relationship manager. But in the world of real estate, we have clients, not customers. So we call it client relationship manager. And a CRM's main function is to provide three specific components for your business. The first one that I mentioned is conversion. So it's a way in which that we can better convert leads by putting them into a relationship management system and have a way in which we can follow up with those leads to convert them into clients. So the first component that a CRM is responsible for is conversion. Then the second component that I like to mention is service. Mm-hmm. Once you take a client, right, you're working with them as a buyer or you're putting their house on the market, you need a place in which you can manage all of your tasks for servicing that specific client. And then lastly is staying connected. So it's a database that houses all of your past clients, friends, family, mets, and unmets. And it's a way for you to systematically stay in touch with people so that they are always thinking of you as their preferred real estate agent of choice. So that, in a nutshell, are the main functions of a CRM and what a CRM stands for.
Yeah. And Sarah John, who I know comes from the Heil Group, she explained it one way. It's funny because I work with CRMs since 2006. But she said this last year, and I was like, I never thought of it that way. But basically, the CRM, it's basically your Excel spreadsheet with all the names and numbers of everyone you know, and it just makes it fancy. So you can download all the names and numbers and put them in a different CRM. It's just like how you easily interface with that Excel sheet of all the names of everybody you know. So I thought that was a good way to put it as well. So
yes,
yeah.
Totally.
So
like
a lot of
on steroids.
What's that?
It's like Excel on steroids.
Yes, totally. So a lot of people want to know what should I look for in a CRM, or what are the main functions of a CRM that are important to be successful. So let's talk about that for a second, Katie. So, and by the way, Katie sold 144 homes her first year. Woohoo! So she really knows, listen up, if you don't know that track record, I mean, this woman knows what she's talking about. So Katie, what are the main functions a CRM needs to have?
Okay, so let me break it down for you because I've seen agents struggle with their CRMs probably on a monthly, weekly basis, just talking to other colleagues, talking to coaching clients, things like that. So what I'll say is it's largely going to depend on your business. So it's very specific to you and it's unique to you and your business. And this is where I think most people get it wrong. Most people will look out and see what's the most used CRM by everyone, and they just jump onto that bandwagon. And what makes sense for those other 5 people might not make sense for you. So there's a couple of key features that I want to discuss with you today to help you get a better idea of what you should be looking for in a CRM. First is customer service. So when I say customer service, I don't mean for your clients, I mean for you. How hard is it going to be for you to get your software, your CRM company on the phone to help you? Do they have regularly scheduled training sessions, interactive ways to interface with that company to help you with any questions that you might have on your CRM, right? So as I would start interviewing, and yes, I would be interviewing for CRM. I know this might sound crazy, but you have to think about it. This is your business we're talking about, right? So as I start the interviewing process, I want to make sure that on the back end of things, I have somebody accessible to me to help me with any questions and concerns that I might have. So first is customer service. The next thing that I would personally be interested in would be lead integration. So this is something specific that it might not be a necessary piece for all of you. Let's say, for example, that I've been selling houses for 15 years and I have a massive database, and that's where all of my business comes from. I systematically work my database each year to get 35 home sales. That's a great life, right? So if that was my situation, I probably wouldn't care too much how leads integrate into my system, because I probably am not purchasing leads from Zillow, Trulia, or any other lead source for that matter.
Can I just define something quick? When you say integrate, are you talking about a lead comes in from Zillow and it just automatically goes into my CRM? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Okay. Great question. Yeah. So how easy is it for me to integrate my varying lead sources directly into my CRM? So as I'm lead generating every day, I'm just going to one place, and it's my CRM to see all the new leads coming in to start working them, versus going to this list or that list or checking this email or that email for inbound lead. So great question. Thank you for clearing that up. So I would want to know what type of lead integration they have, and it would only matter to me depending on what type of lead generation I'm doing, or here's the key, plan to do, right? So let's say I'm starting off into real estate. This is my first year, but I have big plans of potentially one day being a rainmaker, 7th level team owner, and having a big team. Well, then lead integration might be important to me, but it might not be as important to me right now. That might be something that I would look into further, and maybe even change CRMs down the line if that's what is going to be of a need later in my career. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking too, as you're talking, Katie, I don't want us to ignore either that obviously KW, Keller Williams, has Command coming out. So that's going to be awesome. I also know not everybody watching this is within that network, right? So that's where, if you're with Keller Williams, that's where the labs come in. They're really tailoring that CRM to us specifically with what we need. And then for those of you that aren't with KW, there's a lot of other great options out there for CRMs. So go ahead.
Okay. So then the next thing I'm looking for is automated systems.
Woohoo!
Woo! Okay. Yeah. So automated systems specifically, when I think of automated systems, I'm thinking of follow-up. Whenever I get a lead that comes into let's say I get a Zillow lead and I call them and they don't answer. Okay, well, I'm not just going to quit there. I'm going to continue to reach out to them. And hopefully I have their email address as well. So so once I have them in my system, imagine how much easier your life would be if you could just click a plan and say, okay, 21 days of gain follow-up program, boom. And now my system has it automated to remind me to call them every day in a systematic way and email them templated emails that I've already created. It's like, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Here we go.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So that's huge. Automated systems, I think, would benefit pretty much anybody. Even if you were a small individual agent doing a few transactions a year, I think there's still a great time save in having some form of an automated system of connecting with your clients.
Yeah. So, and actually, this kind of feeds into the question that Casey typed in. Lead distribution between agents and ISA roles. What are the expectations for follow-up and documentation? So that's where, if you have a preloaded system, and we can tell you what some suggestions are for that. So if you're looking more for the, what do I do with the lead when it comes in, we'll give that to you in a second. But that's where the automation will help you, because you won't have to think through setting all that up. You basically make a template of what does lead follow-up look like. When there's a new lead, you assign it to the lead, and then you're done, just like what Katie said.
Yeah. So changer. Huge.
Yeah. So, and this might vary per team. So Katie, I'll have you go first, and then I'll share if there's anything different. But what are the expectations for follow-up and documentation when a lead comes in, whether agent or ISA, and then how does it get distributed?
Okay, so on our team, we have very specific standards for follow-up for both the agent or the ISA. So it just depends on whether or not it's an agent worked lead or an ISA worked lead in our company. So for example, our agents typically will work nurtures. So these are leads that have already been sourced by the ISA department. And it's an individual that's looking to buy or sell in the next 12 months, and they meet 5 specific criteria. So as our agents work those nurtures, they're required to put in copious amounts of notes and set follow-ups and keep up with the follow-up tasks at hand. Meaning, if there is a task today for my agent to call and follow up with that person, they better complete that task and call that individual. So for them, it's something that we're constantly monitoring to ensure that those follow-ups are happening to our standards. On the ISA side, let's say we get a brand new lead into the system. It's a hot lead. Again, we have great lead integration into our CRM, so it just pops right up in there. We have a standard that a ISA needs to contact that lead within 24 hours. And depending on the lead source, we often want it as close to within 5 minutes as possible, because we've done the research and we know we have a much higher conversion rate if we can connect with interested parties within 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So we can time that with our CRM. It allows us to see how long that lead's been sitting in the system. Then our ISA is reaching out to them, getting them on the phone. If they're not successful in getting them on the phone, then we put them in a 21-day of gain follow-up protocol. And that is where the ISA is systematically calling, emailing, texting over the course of 21 days until we get a response from that individual. If it goes through that 21-day period and we never get that person on the phone, we simply put them in yet another category within our CRM called archive, in which we're still going to call through that list at least once a month to try to tease anything out of it that we can.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a brief snippet of what our follow-up system looks like for a lead with an ISA where they don't answer. But we also have it specific to, if they do answer, turns into a nurture, put it in the nurture pond for the agent. If they do answer and they're going to set an appointment, then it's transferring it to the agent, setting notes. And all of this is, again, very, very specific to our team and what the expectation is.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. And Casey, let us know if that answered your question. That was super detailed and awesome. I think the key is you have to figure out what works for your team, right? So some teams will hand over leads once we know that this is a hot lead, but the appointment hasn't been set yet. Other teams, and this is how the team was that I came from, the Haro group here in South Carolina, was it doesn't get transferred until the ISA actually set the appointment. And part of it can even depend on your state and licensure and what you can or can't do based on that. So this is where in the coaching program, and why don't we go ahead and put up the slide real quick if people want to learn more about that. But in the coaching program, we would get into your business specifically and then custom make what would that look like for your team in the way your ISAs are set up, you know, the needs of your team, what CRM you're using, all that good stuff. So yeah. But I think big picture, the idea is you have a systematized follow-up plan, and then you have buckets you put people in, and making sure everybody on the team knows the definition of each bucket. So if people are in this category, we all know it means what. If they're in this category, it all means what. One other important piece is make sure as you're setting follow-up tasks for people that they're actually good leads. So for a long time, I used to set tasks for everyone. And I got to the point of I just dreaded my task list because I knew probably at least half of them were just complete wastes of time. I've called them 30 times. So another great tip for you for this whole follow-up and managing it thing is definitely, like Katie said, have your 21 days of gain where you're working to catch them for the first 21 days. But what I find is you want your day, I hope I'm explaining this right. I just came off vacation, so I'm a little woo. So you put them in your tasks until you determine, like, I've exhausted everything other than the occasional call. I've done everything. I've texted, called, emailed, all of that stuff. And the idea would be you come in and you deal with your tasks for the day. And then ideally you're going to have some extra time in your day where it's like, okay, who do I call next? And you go to your buckets in your CRM and you make sure everyone in your CRM has been called at least once a quarter or more, but no less than once a quarter. And that would help you make sure that you're catching people. So if you know that you will keep up with that, and you know that I'll sort my database daily and make sure nobody's more than 90 days without contact, you don't need to set tasks because you'll catch them when you sort your database. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that way your task list is more energizing than what mine used to be. So
yeah, that's a great point. So I would say the big takeaway from what Anna's saying it too is there's a lot of different ways you can do lead follow-up and lead conversion.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is make sure that you have it written out, that you have a lot of clarity around it, and that everybody agrees and says, yes, this is how we're going to do it. Because if you just start doing it one way and thinking the agents are going to do it to your standards, it's a big assumption to make. You just got to get clear.
Yeah. So Casey just had a follow-up. Do ISAs have a role after they pass the lead to the agent? My perspective on that was I get paid when they close, and so I'm going to follow it until it closes. And I'm also going to trust the agent, right? I don't want to be pestering them all the time. So the way that I viewed that is, and again, it kind of depends on your team setup, but on our team, it was you don't pass it until it's set. So I looked at it like if my job is to set a qualified appointment, then my job really doesn't end until they show. Because until they show up, I'm the one that's talked to them. So there's nothing the agent has done until they show up other than maybe a call to like beforehand, hey, I can't wait to meet you. Let me verify the info. But I look at it as until they show, it's my responsibility. Yet even after they show, I believe in following up of, hey, did they sign? Did they not sign? Like, what's the status of this person? Because I firmly believe if you're an ISA that does set appointments, if that's how your team does it, it is half of your responsibility to get them to sign, because the way that you set the appointment and the verbiage that you use can make it easy for the agent to get the signature. So whenever someone doesn't sign the agency agreement, I don't look at that like, oh, well, that's all 100% the agent. I also look at it like, well, did I let them know that they might be signing paperwork? Did I build Katie up as an agent? Did I get them excited to meet Katie? Did I uncover all their objections so that Katie knew what she was walking into? And so I look at it as 50-50. When they don't sign, let's find out why. And then I can determine, was that a me thing? Was that the agent thing? Maybe a little bit of both. And so to answer that, Katie, I think ISAs do keep tabs all the way through closing. Your primarily responsibility ends once they show. And it can vary. Go ahead.
I'll tell you on my team, when I was the listing agent and I had ISA setting appointments for me, in the beginning, they used to ask me all the time, hey, how did this one go? Hey, how did that one go? And over time, we actually developed automated systems so that I would track every single listing I'd go on. So they didn't actually have to come up and ask me, because they would get a report every day that showed exactly what my activity was. And it was pretty nice because honestly, it can be, it just depends on the relationship that you have with your agent, but it can get a little strenuous at times. And you don't ever want either one of you to feel like the other one's saying, well, why didn't you take that listing and, get off the back. So honestly, when we got that automated report, it just made life even easier because, we just didn't have to hassle as much, and we just celebrated all the wins. And then from there too, the type of tracking we had in place, the ISAs could see when the listings were being launched, when they were going under contract, and when they were set to close. So it ended up being a really good system for our ISAs and agents to work off of.
Perfect. Great question, Casey. Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay, and this actually leads us to the next thing, Anna, which is reporting.
Sweet. Okay, tell us about reporting and what we need.
Okay, so another great feature that we look for in a CRM is its ability to report information. So for example, I just mentioned that we had an integrated system that allowed them to see once I would take a client. So what that means is when I would go on a listing appointment at the end of it, as soon as I'd get in my car to leave, I'd put in my GPS to find my way home because half the time I didn't know where I was. But then I would go into my CRM and put that I took the client, that I would change it from appointment set to client taken. And based on that activity, we could log into the CRM and say, okay, I want to see all of Katie Collins's clients taken year to date. And I could have a generated report of all my clients taken. And then from there, I could also show all my clients lost and so on and so forth. So for reporting, I'm going to sneeze, I think. Hold on. Oh, my allergies are
taking. I love allergies. Yeah.
As my eyes water. Uncontrollably. So for reporting, It's just going to vary from team to team on the level of reporting that you want to do. Like, for example, if I was an individual agent, I probably wouldn't care as much about a high level of reporting because it could be really easy for me just to log into my own CRM and see how many leads do I have, how many am I following up with, how many have I converted, how many have I put in trash, and make some really positive inferences from that information into how my business is going and some changes that I could make to my business. It's very easy when you're an individual to look at that data and get ideas from it. When you're a team and you have multiple agents, it becomes far more challenging to really assess what's happening in an agent's pipeline and so on and so forth. So it's really important that if you're growing your team, that you've thought about what are the things that I need to learn from my CRM that I need to see my agents doing and verify.
Yeah.
My favorite saying ever when I'm coaching rainmakers is inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
And having a higher level of reporting capabilities in your CRM allows you to do that in such a more significant and powerful way. And it's really just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the ones that say how long was the lead sitting there before it was responded to, how many overdue tasks are there. Because sometimes these things can help us see if someone has too many leads, right? So one of the biggest values I found in a CRM was realizing, okay, there's a tipping point where you have so many leads that you actually, it's not because you're not diligent, you're not hardworking, or you don't care. It's just there's so many that I'm not keeping up with them. I can't call all of them through the 21 days of game plan because I've got 3,000 leads, that are all new. So I think that's where the CRM reporting can help as well. Is it helps you see, is it time to hire someone? Do we have so many leads that we actually need more help? And all of that can come from the reporting. So I used to think CRM and reporting, all this kind of stuff was kind of boring. And honestly, it's become fascinating and exciting when you start to see what it can, it's understanding what it can do is what makes it exciting.
Yeah. I mean, if you could know definitively that if I call 100 people and I will on average speak to 20 and I will convert of those 21 into a sold client, it gives you so much more power to know exactly what you need to do on a daily basis to hit your goals.
Yeah.
It's just huge. And I hate numbers, but I love it at the same time.
You and me the same. I used to talk about reporting. Haro and I, he's like my team owner. We're like brother and sister. And when he used to tell me to report, I'd be like, oh, fine, because you're telling me to. But I wasn't getting it.
Yeah.
And I remember when we figured out how many contacts I needed per hour in order to make the money I wanted to make, a 6-figure income. And I was like, this is so much easier than I thought it would be. And it all came from reporting. And so it's pretty awesome when you understand it. So
yeah.
And guys, we don't have a ton more. So type in, if you have any lingering questions, type in because we want to make sure we get those. So after reporting, I know you also said modification is important. So what does that mean?
So how easy is it for you to modify your CRM? A specific example that I have is lead source. So let's say in 2 years, you decide that you want to start buying leads from some new company that's selling leads. Can you go into your CRM and create a new tag so that you have a way of saying, hey, this lead came from Katie's Hot Listings.com seller leads, right? So how easy is it for you to modify your system because your business is going to grow and change over time. So you want to make sure that you have a CRM that's going to allow you to make those changes with it, right?
Yeah.
So modify.
Yeah, definitely. And then intuitive, which I feel like some of the stuff we've talked about kind of speaks to that. But specifically, what do you mean, Katie, when you say you want a CRM that's intuitive?
So easy to use. When you log into the CRM that you're looking at purchasing, does it look like it's written in hieroglyphics? If it looks totally out there and it seems hard for you to use, you're probably not going to use it.
Yeah.
It's because everybody else and their mom says this is the best CRM. If you're logging into it and you feel like you are looking at hieroglyphics, keep looking because I want you to go into a space that's very intuitive for you to utilize. So really I guess when I say intuitive, it's really, is it likely that you're going to be able to use it? I mean, do you like it? Is it aesthetically pleasing to you or do you hate it? Right? So just keep that in mind because if you're not, I learned this years ago from a book called The Happiness Project. Whenever you find yourself not doing something that you know you should be doing, ask yourself why. Why? One of the things that I discovered about myself was I was not doing my laundry. I would let it pile up, pile up, pile up. And I asked myself, what specifically about it do I hate? And it's the hangers. I had all these like velvety hangers and I hate the way they felt. And it was just like a pain. And I thought, well, if I reorganize my closet, I got all new wooden hangers and it looked pretty. Would I be more likely to hang things up? And the answer is yes. So I made those changes. So it's the same concept with the CRM. If you're going into CRM every day that you hate and that you find difficult and cumbersome and totally not intuitive, then you should maybe consider looking at a different CRM.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And we had a question come in, what are your favorite CRMs for teams? And this is where, again, this is where when we're talking with people on a coaching call, we find out what are your needs, what are you looking for, all that stuff. And I think this is a common answer and it's true. It's whatever one you'll actually use. There are some great ones out there. I know Boomtown's great. Rivety has some great features. Honestly, if you're with Keller Williams, eventually making that switch to Command because they're talking to us. It's built by agents. I mean, agents are giving feedback into what they want in a CRM and then they're creating it. So Command, if you're with Keller Williams, Command is a no-brainer. But those are some other options. Boomtown. I know some people use Commissions Inc. or some common ones. I think we probably hear of the ones, Katie, that some of the bigger teams use because of coaching ISAs. We tend to coach bigger teams.
Right.
Commissions Inc. Boomtown, I hear Rivety. Those are the three main ones I hear.
Yeah, pretty much. Those are the big ones that I hear. I mean, our team uses Salesforce.
Oh, yeah.
This is a Goliath. So, but do I recommend it to most teams? No, because it's incredibly expensive. You're basically paying for a lot of bells and whistles that the average team probably won't utilize. So,
yeah. So that's, again, you got to customize it. So I actually, now I'm no longer in the active ISA role. I did it for years and years and years. But now as I have my own business, I have something that called Copper, and it's because it talks to my email and it knows my calendar and it makes it really easy to use. And so that's not really an appropriate one for real estate just because it doesn't have all the functionality. But the point is I went out and thought, what do I not want to have to think about? And what CRM just does it? And that was Copper for me in a non-real estate setting. So you just have to know what are your pain points and all that good stuff.
Because all of you could go out today and buy Salesforce and it would work great for you. But then you're looking at the cost of it, which is actually the next thing on my list. Because the cost is probably going to be far greater than what you need. And it's probably more CRM than what you need as well. So when I talk about cost, you just want to make sure that you're not just going out and buying the shiniest, brightest, most polished CRM out there and it be way out of your budget as well. And another thing to consider too is as you grow, maybe the cost right now makes sense, but as you grow, you'll want to know how much is it going to cost to add additional users, to let your admin have access to an aspect of it, to let your agents get their own profile within the system to work leads, things like that. So just be thinking of that as well when you interview CRMs.
Yeah. I see Sean just typed in follow-up boss. I don't have personal experience with that one. I don't know if you do, Katie. I know I have several clients that use it.
I would say several of my clients use it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. But I've never used it.
Yeah. And here's the thing, guys. We're talking a ton about the nitty-gritty of CRMs right now because that's the point of this webinar, right? Like that's the title of the webinar. But I can tell you that on actual coaching calls where we're talking with people in the real life day-to-day, it's very rare that it matters what CRM they're using from the regard of it's more talking about what's your follow-up plan? Are you keeping up with your tasks? How many overdues do you have? How many leads are in your name? How many new leads have you gotten today? Right. So I find that in you need to select a good CRM, but once you actually have it, typically coaching conversations aren't about the name of the CRM you're using. It's more, what are you doing within it? If that makes sense. So yeah.
Yes, 100%. Okay, then the next piece, it does integrate nicely with Mojo, Zillow, and Happy Grasshopper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. That's fun with us. Thank you for typing that in.
Okay, so the next piece that I have too is accessibility. So our CRM lets us do mobile devices. So like I mentioned earlier, as soon as I would leave a listing appointment, I could go into my app and updated very easily because it was integrated to have a mobile viewing. So it looks different basically on your app than it does on the website, and it's more user-friendly in the app's setting. And so I could very easily track my progress there as an agent. And what I tell most people, if you want agents to track and to report, you should make it as easy for them as possible to do it, because you're much more likely to get them to do it that way. And so that was another really cool feature that we had there.
Yeah.
And also with accessibility, it kind of ties into another point too. For a while, we were using Brivity for our specifically, just to give you guys an idea of how we had to utilize CRMs back in the day before we got our Salesforce CRM. We would use one CRM for lead conversion. So a lead comes in, we'd work it, turn it to an appointment. As soon as I'd take the client, we would put them in another CRM entirely.
We used to do that too. Yeah.
Another CRM entirely to work them as they're listing coming soon, active, and contract to close. What we recognize is there is a big difference between lead conversion and working a client. When you have a client, it's more like project management, right?
Yeah.
And we couldn't quite find a CRM that could do both of those things well. So we had two separate CRMs. Then once we worked them, they closed, they would then be responsible for closing them in this CRM, going back to the original CRM and moving them into the database portion so they could have the 33 touch as a past client that's specific to the past client bucket, so to speak. So accessibility, right? One of the reasons why we moved them into this project management CRM is we liked how not only was it super easy and integrated for our admin to use, but it had a feature that allowed our clients to communicate with us. So they could access the same information, and they could see when we were putting the sign and lock box up, when we scheduled the staging and the photography, and it was it allowed us to communicate with our clients directly through it, and they could see what we were doing. So that was a feature that we really liked of that secondary CRM that we used. So just another thought for accessibility as well when you're making your considerations.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We used to do that too, and I would think we need a CRM that does all of this stuff. So I think it's a common challenge and very, very normal. So
yes.
So Sean said, do you choose based on your needs or the agent's needs, abilities, meaning Rainmaker versus agents or ISA? I think both. I think
they're in alignment.
Yeah, I definitely think both. That's where my mind went to was you want the ease for the agents to be able to use it. And then as a Rainmaker, you're probably more looking at the reports and the follow-up. So I'd want a CRM that made it really easy for me to log in and click on, Bob's name.
As a Rainmaker, I want my agents to be converting at a high level and to have the systems and tools necessary that allows them to do that, right? So that's where I would be in alignment with my team. And then beyond that, I want to be able to see what they're doing. So that might be the only kind of difference where the agent will be like, I don't really want my Rainmaker to see what I'm doing. But it's really beneficial to both parties, really and truly.
Yeah, and a lot of CRMs will have it where you can assign what type of role the person has. And I can't remember the names right now, but you could say like, this is an agent role. And so they can only see their leads in their name. But if you're a Rainmaker role, you can have it set up maybe like an admin where you can see everybody in the entire database. And I like that from a lead management standpoint, because I can go in and see like, okay, how many leads do we have total in the whole company? Who has how many leads, who has what overdue tasks, because that helped me know who's overburdened or who maybe somebody has a work ethic challenge. But I find usually when you have the right people there, if there's a lot of overdue tasks, that's a sign that they might have too many leads in their name. And we need to figure that out. Maybe we need to transfer some or whatever. So I do think having agent view where they only see their own, and then admin view where you can see everybody is a good move. But I think most CRMs do that. So.
And what I'll say too is for our CRMs previous to Salesforce, we didn't really have a high level of reporting available to us. So the way Tim explained it to me was we utilize virtual assistants as the technology gap. So whatever our CRM couldn't do and was going to be really expensive to build into it or go to a new CRM that does do that, we would replace it with utilizing virtual assistants to go in and generate those reports. So you may be somebody that wants to have a 7th level team and say, well, Katie, I'm going to have a 7th level team with teams all over the country. I should just get Salesforce now. Well, you want to lead with revenue first as well, right? So there are different ways that you can modify your CRM as you grow before actually needing to jump into a more robust and costly CRM as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the big picture is you want one that makes it easy to know who you're supposed to call and when, and the status of leads. I mean, that's really the core of it, and then the reporting. You don't need all the bells and whistles typically. So awesome. Anything else, Katie? We had a question about FSBO that's a little, we'll get to it. I'm just going to wait till we're done talking CRM just because it's a little off topic. So anything else CRM related, or do you guys have any other questions?
The one thing I want to leave the CRM topic on is really stress why you need one, because I think there might be some people on this call today that are just using their memory in Facebook and staying in touch with people that way. And it scares me because the CRM is really supposed to do a couple of different things for you that I think are huge. One, it's going to allow you a lot more stability because you're not going to have to go to sleep at night with this lingering thought of, did I forget to call somebody today? You're going to be able to actually go to sleep because you know everything's in order.
Yeah.
If you use a CRM, right, and you have this order, you're actually going to be able to do more because you're going to have all these automations and be able to follow up with people. You should be able to, in turn, sell more houses by using a system like this.
Yeah.
Also, you're going to probably provide better service to your clients because you're not going to forget their option period.
Yeah.
Or to call them back when they asked you to call them back.
Yeah.
And then lastly, if you don't care about servicing your clients and you think you sleep fine and you feel like you have the memory of an elephant, great. But I'll leave you with this thought. It's your business. It's your business. If you ever want to get out of real estate and you want to sell your business, you are selling your database. You're selling all the information housed in a CRM. And I guarantee you will get more money the more organized, the more leads you have, the more notes you have, the more contact information. If you use your CRM at a higher level, you're going to get the return on it when you turn around to sell it when you get out of business.
Yeah.
So Gary Keller says your database is your business is your database. I even take it one step further. I say it's the CRM. It's your lead conversion, the way you service your clients in your database. It's all of that is what you would turn around and sell to somebody if you were ever going to retire.
Yeah. Well, and I don't mean this to sound all melodramatic or whatever. I'm actually going to share a screen in a minute. Hopefully it'll work. But I totally don't mean this as in the, when I was in school, I walked uphill both ways story. I remember when I first started, we had CRMs and it was like, go to this CRM for this lead source, go to this CRM for this lead source. And it wasn't combined, like you said, integrated. And so I found myself honestly using pieces of paper, and I had the file box, and I had literally like the January folder, like sitting next to my desk, not electronic, February folder, March folder. And I remember thinking, we are screwed if this building burns down. Like, like all of this goes away. And it was also challenging if someone called in and I couldn't find their paper quickly because I couldn't use the rapport building info that I had learned about them on the last call. And so I actually want to share screen in just a second here. Hopefully this will work. So give me just a second. And I'm going to give you guys a note-taking tip because how many of you have called leads and you have like 30 past notes, and then when they call you back or they finally pick up, you're scrambling of like, what was the story with this person, or what do I need to remember about this person? So I have a couple tips for you. Before I share it, I do want to encourage you, when you're calling leads, just write this down. Typically the best pickup ratio that you'll ever have is 50%. So that's 1 out of 2 people picking up the phone. And I know I just had a coaching call earlier today with an ISA who's very talented. And she said she was spending 1 to 2 minutes per lead reading the entire history before she dialed the phone. And we figured out she was losing an enormous amount of time every single day. So I want to help you come up with a system where you can not need to do that, but if they pick up, quickly find what you need so you can get back into rapport with them. So the script you would use if you're not reading all the history notes and you're calling. So Katie, say I'm calling you, you're in our database, you're an old lead, I don't really know your story, not going to read it, I'm just going to call you, and you pick up. So, hey Katie, this is Anna calling from the Haro Group. And you know, it's been a while since we checked in on you. And at one point you expressed interest in moving. That way you're not a buyer or a seller. So at one point you expressed interest in moving, and I was just curious, what's the status on that and what's motivating you to move?
Well, yeah, I think I did talk to y'all a while back. I said that we were probably going to sell the house this summer, but my kid is just bad and he flunked. And we're actually going to stay in high school 1 year longer. So we probably won't need any assistance until next summer, this time next year. But yeah, we were planning on moving this year. It's just Katie Jr. couldn't get her stuff together.
Okay, perfect. So I'm curious, what's the benefit to you moving in a year? Where you guys headed? And you don't need to answer that, but the point would be take them back to motivation, even if they're a year out, because you want to document that stuff in your CRM. So let me attempt to share real quick.
And that was like the worst example I could have ever given. I'm on Benadryl, so just I've never had anyone tell me their kid flunked a grade and that's why they're staying. So.
I really like you when you have allergies. It's kind of entertaining.
Oh, cannot wait to bury my head in the pillows behind me.
Okay, so can you guys see the CRM right here? The
Let
slide
me click on that. Yes.
You can see it? Okay, cool. So a couple things. I want you to look right here where it says left off here, money making ideas. I want you to imagine, this was my note to myself. So I want you to imagine that you pull up your task list, and how often does it happen that you pull up your task list and there's like 50 in there and you got to prioritize? Or maybe your kid got sick at school and you thought you were working an 8-hour day and now you're working a 4-hour day and I'm not going to get to all these tasks, so I got to prioritize.
Yep.
What I want you to do is when you set your future tasks, which would be kind of up here is where you're setting your tasks. Look at the left side where it's kind of general. Like, what does this even mean? Wife, what does that mean? LM, okay, I need to leave him a message. What does this stuff mean? So you're going to do yourself a favor if in your notes, when you're setting follow-up tasks, be really specific. So now if I realize, okay, my day just got cut in half because my kid is sick at school and I got to run, you can look and see like, okay, this person had an appointment Monday and I wanted to follow up. That's pretty important. These ones leaving voicemails, maybe I can slide that to tomorrow or later tonight. Nail down appointment time for Friday. That's really important. So it can help you know who to call the more detailed notes that you take. I used to like to put stars if it was like, no matter what, absolutely make sure you get to this task because it's just that important.
That's genius.
Yeah, it helped from the standpoint of making sure I knew how to focus my time. Because we all have stuff happen. I love to say as a coach, don't let yourself get overdo tasks. And we all get the flu, or somebody gets sick at school, or we have a car accident, or whatever.
Or allergies kick your butt and you just take a day off.
Yeah. And also you want to be able to have, if something happens, somebody in your office to pick up and handle it for you if needed. It'd be great to call a coworker and say, can you go in? I have a task somewhere and it says nail down time for Friday. Can you just help me with that and take care of that today? So that is a great little tip for you guys.
Yep, okay. I love it. That was great, Anna. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was bonus. I wasn't planning to talk about that, and then it came up. Okay. Any other CRM questions? And then we'll hit this FSBO question real quick. Okay. So the FSBO question is follow-up. This could be a whole webinar of how to handle FSBOs. So I'll give you 2 answers. The quick and easy answer is when you're talking with a for sale by owner, or really anybody for that matter, the magic sales question is, what would have to happen for you to, and then fill in the blank. So what would have to happen for you to be comfortable listing your house with us? And the beautiful thing about whatever they answer you, you're basically saying, what would I have to do to sell you on listing with us? And whatever their answer is going to tell you what you need to do to satisfy that. Now, it might be something you're not willing to do or that you can't do. Maybe they want to overprice the house and that's just not something you're willing to do. So, but it'll at least tell you where they are in their head of what would have to happen for them to consider working with a realtor. Are they reasonable? So that's the short answer, is just ask them. So, we do have buyers. We're happy to learn more about your house for our buyer pool. Yet I'm curious what would have to happen for you to be comfortable listing with an agent. I have another thought on that, but Katie, you were a fantastic listing agent. What's your take on that one?
I love that one. My favorite go-to question was always, how long do you intend to market the house yourself before making a change?
Yeah.
So when are you going to give up trying to be a for sale by owner. And depending on what they say, you have more clarity around where they are in terms of their mindset or in the process.
Yeah.
So we know majority of for sale by owners hire an agent, and we know on average it takes them about 60 days of being on the market before they give up and hire someone. So because I don't know when they came on the market, it's not like a traditional MLS and I can see 17 days on the market. I'm basically asking them, where are you in this 60-day window? Are you like slowly becoming frustrated and realizing you need to hire someone? Or did you just start off and you're a happy camper and you're going to get it sold this week yourself?
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to assess that. And then it's just going to vary. What I'll say too is I coach some teams where they will set previews for sale by owners and have the agents go meet them and feel them out and see about converting them to a client taking right there. Or it's they'll just start a rapport building process and continue to follow up with them and then set another appointment and take them. Right. So I have some teams that just do set previews for sale by owners. I have other teams that, and this is more traditional, I'd say, is they incubate the lead all the way till appointment set. And then the listing agent goes out and takes it. So it's just going to vary from team to team on what your commitment is.
Yeah. The way I used to look at that, and this was just my personal thing, is if it was, I would decide if I would preview it, because I used to preview houses even as an ISA. And I would just look at it like, okay, how far are they from the office? Is this worth driving to? What's the price point? And I think it's partially a personality thing, but I knew that for me, if I got in front of them, the chance of me converting them to an appointment was much higher, just because that was the way that I was. So that was my personality. And so I would just kind of gauge it. If they were in our targeted neighborhood that we really wanted to dominate, it might be worth going and doing a preview. So I'll give you a really quick rundown of my favorite FSBO script. And it works like a charm. At one point, I was converting 1 out of 3 FSBO conversations, first time conversation, to a listing appointment, not a preview. Like they knew that we were meeting to list the house. And we go really in depth with this in the ISA coaching program. I'm just going to do a quick overview because of time, and it's not the main topic of this webinar. But if you want to reach out to us about the ISA coaching program, just go to isamapscoaching.com. Hannah can probably put that back up on the screen real quick and reach out to us. And when you put that you want to talk to a coach, you either actually get me, Katie, perhaps Annalisa, another one of our coaches. You'll actually get a coach and we can talk with you through some of these things. But the quick FSBO script is I like to start with a FSBO and say, you know, I see your house listed here on the, you know, Zillow or whatever. And I am curious because we have 30 active buyers right now, whatever your number is. We have 30 active buyers. And I'd love to know more about your house. And a lot of times they'll say, well, it's on Zillow. Can't you just read the ad? And it can get a little snarky. So I like to just say, well, I can read the ad, but here's the deal. There's 200 other houses in the market that fit your general description. So say that I was at coffee with one of our team buyers and had to convince them that your house was the one out of all the other houses. Your house is the one that they should buy. What should I tell the buyer to convince them? And they always, like it works every time. They go into the neighborhood's great, and the school district's great, and the trees are old, and everybody's so nice. And then that gives you an easy transition to say, well, it sounds like such a fantastic house. What has you thinking about moving? And I found that that worked really well. With FSBOs, if I went straight for their motivation, sometimes it would work. Most of the time, they'd be a little defensive. If I started with, tell me about your house, and then, wow, that sounds like a great house. Why are you moving? That I got a much better response from that. And then the transition from there would be, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share the information of your house with our buyer agents because, like I said, we have 30 active buyers and perhaps we can help you find a good match. So I will do that for you. However, I have to be honest with you. Typically, you make more money with an agent versus on your own. What would it take for you to meet with us about listing your house? And then we would get into that conversation from there. So the big picture is, tell me about your house and why it's so great. Gosh, sounds so great. Why are you thinking about moving? And at that point, you've gotten the rapport, you've built up some relationship. So now when you go for the listing, it's a much warmer opportunity. And I found for a while, the lowest I had was 1 out of 8 first-time conversations. The best I had was 1 out of 3 would turn into a FSBO. They knew it was for listing, not a preview, and it worked really well. Okay. Kathy, I think it just depends on the person and their tenure. I think in general, agents do well. Actually, Katie, your team does a lot of research on this. What's your answer?
Okay, I was going to say it's going to depend not only on your agent's tenure, but also on how well leveraged your agent is, like how efficient, I should say, your agent is with selling houses and managing their pipeline, right? So do they have a showing assistant? Are they living and dying by their calendar? Are they spending 3 hours at a buyer consultation or just one? So it's unfortunately because there's all these different factors in terms of how your agent's working their clients, and also what type of leads are you giving that buyer agent, right? Are these database leads, past client leads, Zillow leads? How long does it take for your agent to get somebody on the phone and convert them to an appointment? Like these variables are pretty big, right? So it's going to vary. I will say on our team, our buyers agents can successfully close 4 buyers a month and work 100 nurtures a month in their CRM. So 100 people that are thinking about making a move, motivated, not working with an agent, and told us, hey, call me back in 2 weeks or 2 months or 4 months or whatever. But if you give them more than 100 nurtures, which again, there's 5 criteria that make up a nurture. If you give them more than that, we tend to see that it's hard for them to keep up with the follow-up process with them.
Yeah.
That's our own personal experience. If this is something you're struggling with, there are different things I would tell you on a coaching call to help you determine what your specific number is, depending on the variables that we mentioned, and then doing some trial runs with your team.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not really one answer that applies to everyone. I think a big picture is you need to look at how are you doing with actually calling those new leads through the 21 days of gain.
Response time to the leads.
Yeah, response time. How many overdue tasks are there, if any? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff you look at. So good question.
A great question.
Cool. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I think we are about done. Katie, thank you so much. I hope you feel better with the allergies.
And thank you guys for sticking with me through the sneezes, the runny nose, and the weird voice. I appreciate all of you guys and happy to interact with you on these webinars.
Yeah, so reach out if anybody's interested in coaching. This is really where the rubber meets the road, because the ISA program has webinars like this where it's an hour every single week and your whole team is invited to it. It's not just for one person. It's if you have 5 ISAs or 5 ISAs and agents combined, it's really a lead conversion program. It's called ISA coaching, but honestly, we really talk about lead conversion. And so agents and ISAs are frequently in there and benefit. So every week there's a 1-hour webinar on Tuesdays. And then you also get 2 one-on-one coaching calls per month. So that would be with Katie, me, perhaps Annalisa. We've got a couple different coaches that are fantastic. And so it's an element where you get the training through the webinars, but you get the personal accountability and customization through the coaching calls. So for that, go to isamapscoaching.com and you can reach out to us. Like I said, it comes to one of us directly and we'll have someone get back out to you. Awesome. All right, guys, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks.
Bye.